Hey guys, Steve here. Ponics. Today we're going to talk about
growing with fishes.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 226 of the Growing with Fishes podcast. This week we have a local Oklahoma grower and a podcaster and cannabis community member, CannaQueen.
Hello, thanks for having me on.
Welcome.
Yes, and then we also have Marty.
Hello, everybody. How's it going?
Hello,
And
hello.
before we get started, everybody be sure to check out the website. Oh, I forgot that. I'll get the link in the website here in a second once we get intros over. But be sure to check out over at jellybomb.com. We have a whole bunch of cool merch, all kinds of aquaponic cannabis t-shirts and hoodies, and the proceeds go to just helping us pay for the servers to host the podcast and all the back end stuff. So thanks a lot, Jesse, for putting that all together. Also check us out over at apmjclass.com and apmjnewts.com. We have a very advanced, over 600 lecture aquaponic cannabis class. It's incredibly in depth. We're constantly adding new content to that every week. And then we're going to continue to do that, throughout the year. That's what you pay for. So it's a really cool, cool experience, and it gives you a top to bottom how to grow in aquaponics without, having to learn it from and go through it the hard way. So, and then again, constantly adding new methods, new techniques, new microbial inoculants, new, beneficial microbes, and all different types of cool stuff that we're constantly adding content to it. I know Marty's just put a whole new batch of over 20 videos up just the other day. So just yesterday, I think it was. So definitely check.
I think we're in the fish section right now. So just to give you an idea, we have maybe 15 different slides on various species of fish, on different types of shrimp, and concerns for all those things. So that's our current stuff that's going up right now, just to give you some examples. And then also some different methods for breeding, all kinds of helpful stuff around all kinds of aquaponic inhabitants.
Oh yeah. And then we have in-depth, guides on different design types, what work, what doesn't, comparison videos, and pictures of different grow methods, before and afters of different things were tried, all different types of data that you're just not going to get anywhere else. So definitely check that out. And then over apmjnewts.com, you can get all your aquaponic cannabis nutrients for your systems or your vegetables. Alrighty. So thanks a lot, CannaQueen, for joining us. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do with the content that you're creating?
I'm super excited that you have me on. Again, I'm CannaQueen. I am an Okie. I guess that's what they call them, right? Okies. So I'm officially an Okie now. And like you said, I do have a podcast as well. I do interview styles sort of like this, and I just kind of dive into everything from growing to being a patient to if they're the extraction process, if it's the edible process. I kind of just grab a little bit of the whole community and kind of piece off knowledge week by week when I can.
That's really cool. So I understand you have you have 16 episodes right now. Do you want to tell us a little bit about some of the different guests that you've had on and some of the different maybe interesting content that you've covered so far?
Yeah, so I started with just kind of doing a basic questionnaire over social media, just kind of gathering information from my followers, and kind of got in depth with some of them and asked more in-depth questions as far as how long they've been smoking, why they're smoking. Some of them were ranged from people that I've known for a couple years, and others were teachers that I had when I was in elementary school. So it was really cool to see the broad spectrum of people who are cannabis users. And then from that was kind of like the intro to get started. And then from there, I've interviewed, just like I said, cultivators. I've kind of dove into different styles of growing. I honestly didn't know that you could do, even grow with fish until I moved to Oklahoma. So that concept is entirely new and super intriguing to me. But I've done just outdoor or greenhouse or hydroponics. I've done those kind of interviews, and then I've interviewed brokers, who maybe handle multiple businesses. So someone who, has business A, B, and C, and then they go out to the dispensaries and they're trying to, sell the products. One of my favorite ones, honestly, so far is probably the bud tender episode that I did, and I just grabbed a couple bud tenders, and we had like a little shit talking fest of just kind of what goes on behind scenes of the dispensaries, and what to expect and what we kind of see, because it's been interesting being in this community because it's ever growing and everybody kind of thinks they know everything about this community. And so it's cool to kind of see different insights everywhere that, and within everyone that I've interviewed. So I've really gotten to learn not only different methods to everything, but even just like different personalities. And that's been really fun to see just in this community alone.
Awesome. So, what are some of the common trends with products? I noticed you've toured quite a few different dispensaries in your different episodes. What are some of the more common product trends you're seeing in Oklahoma?
Definitely concentrates. I feel like within this community, it's a lot of what people are, basically hollering out on social media the most, and that's concentrates. It's everyone kind of jumped on that bandwagon, I feel like, and I don't know if maybe it's because it's more of a newer way to smoke. Not newer because it's been out for years, however it's the newest way to smoke aside from maybe carts. But everybody, they want to be, it seems like everybody, like I said, everybody kind of knows everything about everything with the cannabis world. So seeing the different opinions and the different knowledge on concentrates, especially because we've gone from, just we have different forms of it, whether it's live resin or, the CRC method is a whole new thing in this world. So that's one of the biggest, I feel like, trends that I've seen is everyone's just jumping on the concentrate bandwagon and then trying to tell you if it's CRC or why this isn't good, or, everybody kind of knows everything about concentrate. So it's been interesting just to see that. And then other than that, really edibles, I feel like it almost seems as if people are wanting to kind of see what their limit is with eating edibles, like how many can I get? Because everyone, I feel like 1,000 milligrams is kind of a big trend right now, and everyone's like trying to grab that 1,000 milligram and eat it. But, man, I don't know. It is what it is.
Yeah, I don't understand. I mean, we have most people can't handle more than the 125s or 250s that we make, and I know I certainly can't. So I don't know why other people would want something. I could definitely tell you when I hurt my back, I was taking 3,000 milligrams a day, but I wasn't taking any pain meds. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that was, in place of something else. And when you're taking it for that, then yeah, I can totally understand. But yeah, I think also a lot of people, it has a lot of milligrams in it, but it's not very bioavailable, and people don't realize,
Your audio is breaking up, Steve. I don't know.
10, 20 of what's actually in it. So it's just, hold on, I'll see what I can do.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a backup connection. I think he's
All
probably.
right.
Okay, nice.
So let me jump back here to the question. Is this any better, or is it still bad?
It's still lagging a little bit. It'll probably catch up in a minute.
Yeah, a little.
Total should let me know.
Of course, it was fine the whole time we were talking before.
Okay. Well, what are some of the popular strains that you're seeing here in Oklahoma?
Did you say popular?
That's how it always works.
Popular strains.
What are the more popular strains that? Yeah. So what are the more popular strains that you're seeing in Oklahoma?
I feel like people are going kind of either for just off the wall names, honestly, and not really sticking with kind of those true genetic strands that are out there. But I will say, like, Jack Herrero is one of them that is a go-to. White Widow is another big one, and I feel like Wedding Cake. Although I feel like Wedding Cake is more of a popular strain in a cart rather than just the flower. Mimosa is another one. I think those are probably some of the top favorite strands that I see go in and out, with the exception of like a CBD strand. I think we lost him.
So tell us more about the CBD strains in Oklahoma.
Do what?
More about the CBD strains in Oklahoma.
Right. So we have a couple that I've seen are like Route 66, and then there's a 66 cookies. Those are, I feel like, the two main that I kind of see circulate quite often. And they all have been, I want to say, one of them was a 6% CBD to like a 1% THC. And I know that I believe it's when you get that 8-to-1 ratio of the CBD is whenever you're not going to really feel those psychoactive THC components. But all the other ones that we have are more of like an 8%, 10%. So those are strictly going to be like beneficial CBD, no psychoactive THC feeling. And I have a wide variety of patients coming in to look for it. I was honestly very shocked when I first stepped into the dispensary world, because I would say 85% of the patients that come in really truly need it for that medicinal. They're not coming in just to get, what can I get high off of? So it's really cool to truly help those people that really want it.
How difficult did you find it opening a dispensary in Oklahoma? I know that's kind of a popular business model right now, but Oklahoma's kind of famous for being sort of the Wild West still in terms of doing that kind of stuff. How was your experience getting that together?
It's funny that you say that, only because I hear that so much, the Wild Wild West.
Yeah. We may have started some of that. I blame you a little bit.
That's funny. So my family is working on opening our dispensary still. So the dispensary that I work at is not owned by myself or my family.
Gotcha.
But I've been in 2 dispensary settings since I've been here, where I have kind of had to help turn things around for whatever previously happened before. So I've gotten to see like the nitty gritty grind, try to get, all the OMMA reports in line, trying to get inventory correct, making sure our system's running smoothly, all those things. And it's a lot of work. I know that as of now, we are working on getting our building. We have our building. We actually just got our compliance for our firewall. We had to do 4 firewalls back to back on one wall and got each one of them inspected. So it was a pain, but it's just part of the process. And Other than that, we're just waiting on the approval for our license itself. But we have a grow, so we've had a grow out here for about 2 years now, and that's just been a really crazy fun journey since the day we started with building the shop up to getting those compliance, getting all the permits, getting everything in line to being able to start that first harvest.
Sure. What are you guys growing right now? What strains are you guys growing in your grow?
So we do Do-si-do, Gorilla Glue. We have wedding cake. We also have a pink cookies, which is a new one we're actually chopping now. And then what else do we have? Bahama Mama. But our top strands are Do-si-do and Gorilla Glue. Those are our favorites.
Cool.
Well, my favorites.
Right. Is that Gorilla Glue number 4?
Yes.
Cool.
Yes, Gorilla Glue number 4. It gives me the munchies like no other strand. I don't know what it is, but the CBN and it's high, I guess. I don't know. It makes me munchy like crazy.
For sure. What kind of growing methods do you guys have or follow? Do you guys have like a living soil type grow, or what are you guys focusing on?
We are hydroponics, and we use the rock. Oh my gosh, I can't think of the name right now. The little rock, like the rocks, they're not soil, the rock beads.
Hydrogen? The clay pebbles? Yeah.
Yes, those. I couldn't think the actual name for them. And then we have trays, and we drain when we feed.
So like,
and we have a three food step system. So it's a lot of people get blown away with that. My brother's really the master grower behind it all, but so I don't know exactly, but I know that we use a 3-part system, and she produces beautiful baby plants.
Good. That sounds great. Steve, did you get your internet working over there yet? Uh-oh, I caught him taking a hit, I think.
I think it's working.
Yeah, that sounds a lot
It's
better.
working. Do we go with allegedly? How about with the video off? Is that any better?
It
No.
seems better now than it did before, yeah. I can
it seemed a little
understand your
less-
questions.
Yeah, I don't know. I've tried both. Neither one's cooperating. It's been a crazy day. All right.
Bear with
So we
me.
have so what is your favorite I guess product that you've had so far on the Oklahoma market?
Okay, so we'll step away from flour because I love flour, but I think I would say I like to drink my THC. So I had around July 4th, I had a tree sap. I do not recall the company that it was made by. It was a sample I got as a bartender, which was nice. But it was a 500 milligram tree sap, and I mixed it throughout the night. And it was so good. And it was very effective, and I felt amazing all night. But honestly, then to kind of just bounce off that, but honestly, the Y'all's Lax lemonade, I drank that with dinner one night, and it was so good. And like I said, so effective. But I like to drink. I like anything to drink. I love edibles as far as eating, but I feel like when I drink it, it always hits me. When I eat my edibles, it's kind of hit or miss.
Awesome. Well, yeah, definitely. Thanks for that.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. The cannachinos are delicious too, but I love the lax lemonade.
So what about your flower strains? What are your maybe top 3 or top 5 that are you're seeing quite a bit in Oklahoma. I know personally, I found on the cultivation side, anything equatorial is going to do, quite well in Oklahoma, especially anything that's used to equatorial and humidity. So Jamaican stuff, Southern African stuff, anywhere that's going to have that kind of similar climate, and also those higher temperatures. Is going to do really well for the outdoor, and even to a lesser extent greenhouse. The angle of the sun is also similar, so you're going to get similar expressions. I know that Durban crosses and Swazi crosses across the board have been some of the best yielders, and yielding an extra 10 or 15% above what everything else is and also just being generally more resistant to everything else out here. What have you found?
I will say it seems like the moisture here is a lot more than what I'm previously used to. But I will say I've seen a lot of Afghan crossbreeds of a lot of strands come in and hit the shelves. Probably, like I kind of said earlier, a lot of people are throwing a lot of crazy names on the shelves right now. And I think that raises a lot of eyebrows when people are shopping just because of the name in itself they want to purchase. However, personally,
we've talked about that before on the show. I'll never forget going to World Cup and looking at a seed list, and the last one was Cokehead Slut. And I'm just imagining some poor college girl who's 21, 22 years old, just out of college, just gets their first second or third day. They're trying to sell Cokehead Slut to some little old lady to help her sleep. Can you imagine how absolutely ridiculous that whole equation is? It's just, we gotta have a little bit better nomenclature when we're naming these things.
No, I completely agree, because you feel kind of like an idiot sometimes when I'm trying to say these names, and like you said, to an older lady, and I'm just we're just gonna call it ATF. We're not gonna say the actual name for it. But wedding cake is just a huge one that I've seen. Kind of like I mentioned earlier, I feel like especially with carts, carts are a huge thing. I feel like just because during the day people don't want to have that actual smoke on them. And so a lot of strains that I see, because carts are a little more available strain wise than the actual flower itself. And mimosa and wedding cake and a lemon pie, key lime pie is a really popular one. Really popular. I was kind of a little blown away with the amount of interest that I saw in key lime pie. I don't know why. I just didn't expect that one to be a big one. And then Jack Herrera, of course, is a really nice one. And then the blueberry strain, I see that go around a lot in this community.
Sorry, I didn't realize my mic was on. I was trying to find my other bag of weed. I didn't realize I was making some noise. I do apologize. So what do you puff?
Right now I have pink cookies, and it's a strand that we just chopped down. She's still a little wet. Just testing her out. I left her out a couple of days to dry out a little bit, but I believe this is a cross between a wedding cake and, oh my gosh, don't catch me lying on here. So I can't tell you what it is, but I know it's a wedding cake cross with something else. Maybe it was our doughy dough, but it's good. She tastes real fruity, very nice, sweet smell, sweet taste. And then Girl Scout cookies, that's another one that we're growing, and I have some of that right now, and oh, it's beautiful. I'll let you find your weed though.
I thought my mic was on. I've been talking to myself.
No.
So what shit, lost my train of thought now. But yes, oh yes. So cookies is very frosty, but you never end up with like, or not never, but a lot of the phenos don't end up having those huge nugs. They have lots of smaller ones, and it just ends up being a pain in the ass to trim. It's the one
And
thing I don't like about cookies. You can get
so
the nice hash off.
have you noticed that with slurricane as well? Are you familiar with slurricane at all? Growing slurricane?
Yeah. Oh yeah. You know, I was growing slurricane in parts of Oklahoma. Slurricane definitely can be. It is a little bit smaller, but we've managed to get slurricane to stack up. Slurricane definitely is more like wedding cake in that it wants to feed pretty heavy, pretty late on the potassium. It's going to keep feeding and feeding and feeding pretty late. You're going to have to push it kind of harder. We found that with the wedding cake and GMO cuts too, both of them really wanted to get a little extra nutrients to really fill out right.
Yeah.
So we ended up having to up the dosing on those guys a little bit
to produce bigger nugs with it.
So trying to juggle. Yep. So I always went with a little. We always just a little extra. And also with the slurricane did pretty good outdoors. It's pretty, being a little bit more narrow leaf type varietal. It does a little bit better in the heat here.
Yeah. Huh. So yeah, we only do hydro. We're gonna do our first outdoor this coming March. So slurricane might be one that I could suggest because I'm not sure what we're gonna do outside yet, but slurricane is one that we have, and I've talked with a couple other growers, and it seems like it just is those really smaller nugs. I haven't really been able to find anyone who says that they were able to produce bigger ones. So, but maybe that's why they just require more, like to be heavier and stuff.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, they were definitely larger than wedding cake, which is, similar a lot of the time. Not always, but a lot of the cakes and some of the phenos. We pretty distinct phenos. Squat. The other one was more stretched out and more sativa-esque, I guess, for lack of a better explanation.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm hoping once we get the new spot to do a lot more mapping on a lot of that stuff. But awesome. So what are some of the other what cuts are you guys? Is there any other cuts that you guys are growing over there at your grow?
Man, I know we have some more, but I just know our main ones are like our dosi, our Gorilla Glue, wedding cake. I tried Bahama Mama. I tried a little bit of a Bahama Mama today, and it was really nice. It had that really like tangy taste in it. I know we're pheno hunting a little, we're just kind of seeing what pops best and how it sprouts and stuff with a couple different ones, and then in the future gonna try to kind of create our own cross and try to see what we can kind of come up with in the future a little. I think you went mute again. I can't hear you.
Oh, what challenges have you found dealing with the Oklahoma market? What are some of the hard parts of getting the grow up and running, and what were some of the challenges that you guys ran into?
Honestly, just building the grow up from the beginning. I wasn't here for a lot of that, but it was just getting those compliances, really having that done, and having to wait for them to come out to do it, or them coming out and telling us that we had to fix 2 small problems and then we'd pass, but then we'd have to get that electrician back out here or the plumber back out here, what have you, to fix that. And then I mean, honestly, it's been tricky just doing the OMA reports and getting all of, just making sure on the paperwork side of it, everything's in line, our receipts and, everything for taxes. Just, I feel like a lot of people think that, when you are going to have this grow, it's just going to be like this fun, easy thing that, you just go and grow marijuana and then you're going to go sell it. And it's not. And it's definitely not when it's an illegal setting and, there's paperwork behind it and there's, the reporting that has to go with it and, little mistakes during the day. There was one day where we had our tanks, I don't know what happened. They leaked and half of the shop was flooded. And it's just, you kind of have to be ready to work at the drop of a hat, like nitty gritty grind if, because at any point something could go wrong. So you just kind of always have to, you're always on the job, essentially. It's a lot of hard work. And I've always known that it was hard work. I love that I have my whole family, like we have a family grow. So it's my whole family. We all work as a team. Like I said, my brother's the master grower, so he's really the one that his hands are in it. But it's been a crazy journey from the beginning to now to see just the things that have happened, whether it be at the very beginning, we had a halt on even getting to start our crop and get the babies in there, get our mothers and get everything ready because we had to fix X, Y, and Z on the electric or this or that. So it was just kind of everything was a stall, but then it kind of started coming and, of course we still face challenges, but we're learning as we go. So it's less hectic as we go.
So you work in a dispensary, yes? Tell us more about the dispensary, and then tell us a little bit about kind of the different demographics in Oklahoma. One of the things that I noticed in Oklahoma that was kind of different was the average age of the patients was much higher than the other states that I had worked in, and the people were much more gravitating towards flower and edibles, and at least in the beginning, the concentrate sales weren't quite as high. And then, as it's matured, people have really gravitated towards them later on. But what have you seen?
So being in a dispensary, I will say working during the day and working at night is 100% a different job in itself. So when you're there during the day, we have vendors coming in. Sometimes we don't know that they're going to come. Sometimes we do know they're coming. At any given point, I'll have 4 vendors walk in within an hour, or, spread out throughout the day, I'll have 4 walk in. And so it's more of like the business side of it during the day, whereas at night, not really many vendors are going to be coming in. It's going to be more of that, pre-dinner, after dinner crowd coming in. It's more of like, you're actually like, it's similar to being a bartender is how I kind of honestly like to look at it, because you do have your regulars that come in. You have your people who come in and they tell you all about their day, or, they ask for your advice. Like, you really grow a connection to these people and like you really get to know them. So that's been really cool. And then as far as the demographic, kind of like I was saying earlier, 85% I would say of my patients that come in are there for medicinal reasons. And with that being said, they're more of an older crowd, as far as they're not going to be like these college kids coming in just looking to like get the best weed to get high or whatever. There are patients coming in who are really looking for, maybe a 1-to-1 gummy, or a specific flower that has a certain terpene that's going to help them, relax. Or they have no idea about any of that, and then I get to be the person to tell them about it, about the THC content or terpenes, or this new cool product that we have that they've never seen before, whether it be a transdermal patch or the new drops that we have in stores. So that's been really cool. And then as far as concentrates, or just really what's selling the most, I would definitely say pre-rolls. So a flower essentially, but pre-rolls are the one thing that I mean, we're constantly buying pre-rolls, constantly selling them. First patients in the door, last patients in the door. They're just, and then if somebody comes in to buy something other than, they don't come in for a pre-roll, they're gonna leave with a pre-roll. So it's like whether you come in for flower, you're coming in for edibles, you're coming in for concentrate, they're gonna grab that pre-roll, whether to smoke it on their way home or just to have for conveniency, because that's what I see a lot is a lot of people don't know how to roll, or they don't want to roll, and so I mean,
And that's really nothing new either. Even before we had dispensaries, you could always sell pre-rolls at concerts, at shows,
yeah.
at the fair, in the parking lot, like
That's true.
pre-rolls have always,
Allegedly so.
always,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
fuck 'em. But yeah, you could, ask anybody who moved anything before it was legal, and I think they would allegedly tell you that if rent had to get paid, pre-rolls were getting rolled. There just always have been that steady, in my opinion. You go, especially if you got hair like Steve's, you can really go into a concert fully loaded and come out
just
fully
tuck
loaded.
them in.
Yeah. Allegedly.
Because they're just in. Yeah, I didn't call them like pre-rolls, I guess, back then. I would just call them like Hooters or joints or,
That's what they were, though. You rolled a whole bunch of them and you took them to the concert, allegedly.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But
yeah.
concentrates do get sold like that's a huge I mean, if that wasn't something that was a big seller, maybe when we first, became medicinal, there's a whole market of concentrate smokers now. And I have people who only buy concentrates and no flour, no edibles, just concentrates.
I like a buffet. I've got like 3 kinds of oil and a couple different kinds of flour. I like to switch it up.
Same. I have like a blunt, bong, loaded. My rig's over there. I got a gas mask in the other room.
Got the dab rig.
Oh,
got the papers.
Sounds better than mine.
I got my
and look, yeah.
And then got my seeds on top there.
Nice.
Stash away somewhere.
Nice.
And right now I'm smoking on some snowman. Oh yeah, there you go.
And I was just packed.
Is that jar of
fresh, lightly pressed bubble.
Nice. Yes.
I actually really like vaping. Flower is one of my go-tos, especially since I like consuming my own flower, and I'm too lazy to put together an extract system or something like that. So I even have like 4 or 5 different friends that do extracts, and I'm too lazy just to take it over to them and be like, here, run it. So I like smoking flower mostly for the simplicity, but also for the experience. I feel like is different. Like I didn't have a ton of flower for a while, but I had a bunch of concentrates. So I was smoking a bunch of concentrates for a while and then switched back to flower and was like, it's definitely a different experience, especially vaping. Like out of this, you can vape at pretty high temperatures without it combusting. And it's kind of an experience too. So, yeah, if you haven't checked out the Dr. Dabber switch, it's pretty cool. You can do concentrates or flower out of it. It's an induction vaporizer.
Okay, I've heard of it. I heard that it was one of the better ones to go with.
Before this, I had a Buddha vape that I hooked up to a bong so that I could take bong hits with it. And I used that for like 5 years.
Oh, wow.
And I had a dab rig set up for that too, so you could do dabs or flour out of it. But it started, after using it for so long, it just started not being as efficient. Like I kept having to turn it up higher and higher to get the temperature up high enough, so the heating element was just going out. So that's when
Yeah.
I found out about this one, and it's just it's really cool because it's induction. Like right now, it's completely cool. There's no, like, you can touch it and nothing happens,
Oh,
and
yes.
it'll heat up in just a couple of seconds and be up high enough to dab off of. You can cold load it. And then as far as vaping flower goes, it comes with a different bowl, and it has like a cover on it that you put over the top of it. So it's almost like a little Dutch oven that you vape your flower out of. And so it keeps it
Yeah.
from combusting, so you can turn the temperature up and get some of those flavors that I didn't normally get out of lower temp. Or you can do super low temp if you want to, which I also enjoy. But it's just cool technology, way cooler than the little brass pipes we used to hit in high school and shit like that.
Yeah, no, I haven't vaped flour in a long time.
It's
It's been a
fun.
really long time.
I
Like I
like
almost forgot about that method, which sounds terrible,
it.
but it's been so long.
But I
What?
love
Okay.
edibles too. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, oh, I was just gonna say, so like, because you were talking about concentrate. So when you smoke concentrates, do you feel like it lasts as long as when you smoke flower, like you're high?
Well, maybe I'm a bad person to ask because I just pretty much smoke nonstop. So,
Me too. So yeah, that's why sometimes I'm like, I don't feel like I'm a fair
um,
person to ask.
I mean, I think if I smoked joints all the time, I would be rolling joints all the time too, So I think it's more my tolerance level. It has more to do for me, like how if I have multiple kinds, if I have multiple strains that I can smoke on, then I feel like if I smoke the same thing over and over again for too long, then eventually,
You
I'll
stop.
have to start smoking more and more and more often.
Yeah.
So that's why I like having a lot of different kinds, which sounds like such a weed snobby thing to say, but it's true. Maybe I
I
am.
mean, same. Honestly, I have a lot of, I have like a drawer and I usually have like four concentrates at a time, like four different concentrates at a time. And then I just always have flour. I don't know. I like to smoke blunts though. I like just like I think the actual smoke sesh is what I enjoy, like I love, like what I really like to do is roll a blunt, take a fat ass dab hit, and then smoke my blunt. Like that's my favorite thing to do.
Yeah, or I'll dab out first and then out. So, and then while I'm rolling, you know, I'll be good. So
Yeah.
I'll dab out and then roll one up or roll two up. I like smoking joints if I'm like watching TV or something. I don't want to like always be packing a bowl or something like that. So I
Yeah.
switch it up for sure.
Same.
And then the dabs are what's really nice in this, like concentrates. I can cold load a big fat bowl and I can walk around and hit it for like, an
Mm-hmm.
hour. Okay, you don't even have to reload it just because it heats up as long as you hit it, and then it immediately cools off. It doesn't stay heated up. So it's not
So
like
it's
it's
not
leaking.
wasting any of it.
You don't waste any of it. Yeah.
Dang. See, okay, I need to look more into the Dr. Dabber because I honestly have looked into the Puffco and I was gonna buy one, but then I was reading a little bit more about how like you're gonna have to change like the atomizer and the upkeep of it is really more costly than I would like. So I was thinking about I might have to look into this Dr. Dabber then.
Yeah, I bought mine on sale. Like I think it was like the after Thanksgiving sale or something like that. They're always having a sale. But
Yeah.
and I think it was like $3.29, and then I bought this extra. It's like an upgraded cap for it. It was like another $60 or $70 or something like that.
Yeah, that's not
So,
bad.
so it's really not bad because you can do both. You know, you can vape flower or concentrate
Yeah.
out of it. It's pretty versatile, and you can unplug it and walk around and hit it. On high temp, you can use it about half a day. On low temp, you can go all day without having to charge it. So it'll
Oh,
go quite a while.
nice.
Steve got to try it. He liked it.
You can't taste like the flour when you're hitting the concentrates.
Oh yeah, I do usually clean it in between.
Okay,
If
yeah,
if you have a really clean concentrate, you won't want to smoke your concentrate.
because that smell.
That's-
I mean,
Okay, that
you'll
taste.
still get high, but it'll just taste
Yeah,
like you'll
yeah,
be
yeah.
able to taste it. And if you've got really
That's,
clean concentrate, you want to, generally you want to
Yeah,
do
of
that. So,
course.
that's something that's
Um,
super important if you're newer to smoking cannabis. You want a separate piece for your concentrates that you're just using for concentrates.
Yeah,
Separate
or
piece.
or clean in between, yeah. And so
Yeah.
even this
yeah.
has a different bowl. You don't even use the
Yeah.
same bowl
And
because
then
you don't
I
want.
like to also use these, which is an ash. Oh damn it! Maybe I can put something behind it to make it work. That just made it worse. Anyways, it's a ash catcher. There we go.
Yeah.
On my face it works. No, okay, there we
Okay.
go. It's an ash.
Oh yeah.
So this basically catches all the ash in the base of that, so that it doesn't go into the main bong.
I have
This
one of
is
those.
easier to clean. You can just take the top stem out and clean it real easy. And then you put that on the front of your bong. And then when you're smoking flower, you get way less junk in your flower, especially if you have a more expensive or intricate piece that's kind of a pain in the ass to clean. Doing one of those, or if it's a really intricate piece, doing one that even has two ash catchers and daisy chain can really help, just prevent anything from getting up into that more delicate glassware. That can
Yeah.
be much, much more difficult to get the stuff out of later on.
That's why I originally went to vaping. Was I got tired of cleaning my bong all the time because I have a pretty bad mold allergy. So anytime my bong would get too dirty for too long, like as soon as it started even growing a little bit of stuff, I would just, like the worst chronic cough you can imagine, and it
Oh,
was pretty bad. So that's why I switched, and then it had got a lot better then, but it wasn't until I started smoking Mullen in my joints pretty regularly, and that it started getting a lot better, and it's really really helped me a lot. So if you guys have any
I need
issues
to get
with
some
that,
of that.
you can find it most places. I mean, luckily here it grows in my front yard, so
And I heard that. I heard that it grows pretty wildly here. I have asthma, and I have really bad allergies, and I've been talking a lot about Mullen lately, and you just brought it up again, so now I'm like, now I have to get it. Yeah,
just mix
that
it
was
in your
another.
joints. It's really that
When you
easy.
go in, if you're going to the thing on Saturday, we'll bring you some.
Okay, well, today's my last technically like COVID quarantine, so
Yeah.
we'll see. I might have to keep it in the house just to make sure I'm still.
No, it's a responsible thing. That's good.
Yeah, but I am sad to miss it because I've been to all of them.
We can always drive by and throw it at you.
Yeah, I'll try to catch it.
No, but we've had a couple of friends of ours that have either gotten COVID or have been exposed, and I know that we've switched here at the house to just smoking Mullen like a little bit every time we smoke flower, any type of flower. We're just putting a little
Yeah.
bit in there just to make sure that we have an antibiotic, and just to help. And it's not going to do anything for the virus, but at least help with anything else that it might secondarily give you.
Yeah,
So
no, for sure. Keeping
but
you extra
it definitely makes it
protected.
easier to breathe and everything else. So especially if someone does a deep dab and it's just coughing, can't stop coughing, or took a big bong rip, can't stop coughing, or they're coughing really hard and deep, just tell them to smoke, and they'll be like, no, that's crazy, but trust, it does work. It'll immediately stop your coughing, like within 5 seconds you'll stop coughing. It's really, really good
That's
stuff.
crazy. Yeah, and I've heard that, so I need to.
Yeah, it's a bronchodilator and an antibiotic. It's one of the few things that the Native Americans had to use to fight pneumonia. So they'd actually take a bunch of the leaves, they get into a tent and they put them onto the fire inside the tent and smoke themselves out that way and breathe in the mullein smoke and treat themselves that way. Now,
So that's literally how, well, I mean, not exactly, but a more modified version that my native aunties.
he can tell you, yeah, here, I'll let him tell you his version.
Yeah, so I mean, the much easier, obviously, it was traditionally done in something like a makeshift sweat lodge that, usually you built on like the edge of the river or preferably on an island in the middle of the river, if you want to get like real traditional. But obviously modified versions, you basically just need to figure out a way to boil it. You can do the same thing with garlic, oregano, pretty much rosemary, thyme, and you can boil them and get them steaming and then inhale the steam. So just put a towel over your head and inhale it. And that's how I was using mullein and all those different things before. And it's kind of the same thing as you. People had mentioned it over and over again. And then when Steve was here, we were teaching the class. He was like, "Yeah, you gotta try smoking some." And so I was like, "All right, fine, okay, I'll try it." And so, and that I noticed it started helping. And then I started talking to one of my aunts again, and they're like, "Yeah, but you need to do it like regularly, like you would take antibiotics for like 2 weeks." So ever since then, I was like, "Well, fuck it, I'll just start adding a little bit to my joints all the time." And honestly, my respiratory system has been much better ever since then.
I've had multiple friends that had or coworkers that had chronic bronchitis. They had bronchitis year after year after year, every fall or winter, especially smokers. People smoke tobacco. Kind of gets just, they never actually fully get over the infection, and then it just kind of mostly goes away. And then when the fall comes back, so I actually had a gentleman I was working with who is a very devout man of the book. And he never, didn't drink, didn't smoke, didn't, very anti-drug. And I told him, look, like, you've had this chronic bronchitis, like, we've gone out and I've taught you a bunch about herbalism, and you've seen me, like, what I've done and me heal other people with other herbs. Like, do you trust me? I was like, here, I'm going to go buy you a clean little glass pipe, and you're just going to smoke this before you come to work. You're going to take a couple puffs of it at lunch. You're going to puff it before you go, when you get home, and you're going to puff it again, like, before you go to bed. And he got rid of his chronic bronchitis that he had had for 7 years, and it didn't come back the 3 years we worked together. So, stuff works. I mean, it works really well. I know anytime I feel like I'm starting to get a chest cold at all in the wintertime, immediately just start smoking it pretty heavy, and it just kind of stops it from progressing into anything kind of heavy. But if someone says, like, you can use it, and again, not medical advice, but there's definitely traditionally, and Native Americans have used it for treating pneumonia and bronchitis and a whole wide range of different
yeah, ton of different stuff. For bandages, it was probably the main way that wounds were bandaged.
So it's definitely something. You can eat the roots as a last resort herb, just as a starch that you can find at just about any time. The second year plants, you can help you find the first year plants that are nearby, because they usually stick out of the snow. The stalks can be used as candle wicks and dipped in beeswax and make a really good wick for candles. The leaves are also good for making salves, as well as the buds are good for making salves that'll treat all different types of nasty infections.
You can actually
really good skin cream.
Roll joints or blunts or whatever you want to call them, spliffs, with the leaves. You can look on one of our podcast episodes. I forget which one now, and I know there's
you rolled one with.
But I rolled one live on the show and smoked.
Oh.
So you can check that out. But like here, I grow I had one that was probably 14 feet tall, and the leaves were huge. And I rolled a one that was like this long off of it. But you can literally replace rolling papers all together, and treat whatever, improve your respiratory system.
Yeah, so my sister, I'm thinking honestly that she might have chronic bronchitis because the last 2 years, I mean, she's gotten it more. If I actually were to sit down and think about it, it's probably been, but the last 2 years it's been bad. Where like the year before this past year, she passed out in my arms. And then this year I mean, she got so sick, she went and got tested for COVID and she got negative. So I think that that's what it was. But, and she smokes like leaves, like real leaf, harsh. And I'm wondering if she has that. So I should maybe get her some of that mullein, and especially if you can use the leaf, because I wonder if she could just completely replace that.
You can get like a pound of it on Amazon for like $12. It's not expensive at all.
Oh, wow. Okay. I might
Yeah.
have to get on there right when we get off
Like
then.
I said, or he's saying, you can grow it. Just harvest it from the bottom up and just leave the top 3/4 of the plant always, and you can harvest it the whole summer and pick a few leaves a week to dry and utilize whenever you need. And then on the second year, you take the buds and you cut them off and you stick them in your mason jars and you steep them. And the easiest method I've found, if you're coconut friendly, put them in coconut oil. You can also use sunflower oil if you don't want to deal with that. And then you steep them in that for 6 months to a year, and then take that and mix it with coconut oil or butter, and then mix that with like some other thicker cream, and then work with it that way. And that makes it an incredibly powerful salve that you can utilize, especially if you're
Yeah.
going to homestead or make your own medicine. It's a really, really good thing for healing wounds and stuff like that.
Wow. Dang, that's interesting. And that's really neat because I mean, if you have to keep it in the mason jar with the oil for 6 months to a year, that's it. That's something really neat. I think I might try to do that because I have a daughter, and that would just be cool to show her how we can make our own medicine. And because, she does get to see the grow and stuff like that. So she does know this is medicine and stuff, but it would be cool to show her another side of it too.
Plus the buds look similar. So. It takes 2 years to get to bud. So although maybe if we did some hormonal stuff with it, like we do for cannabis, maybe we could speed it up. Who knows?
Yeah. I just got this book. It's called Cannabis Pharmacy. And it's a really, really interesting book.
Who's
Like
the author?
it is by Michael Bax, Jack D. McHugh. And then he references a lot of other books. I actually was reading this last night and got another one. It's a cannabis encyclopedia. But this one here, I mean, it talks about everything from cannabis as a medicine, the history of it, the breakdown of, I mean, I learned so much. I learned, and this is something I just didn't know. So y'all might already know this. And then I'm just like, oh, let me catch up. But I didn't know that there wasn't seedless marijuana in the United States until the 70s. Up until then, there was seeds. It was just seedy shit everywhere, apparently. And then in the 70s, that was the first time that they had brought over completely seedless. And then that's where where Sinsemilla came from. I believe it was India, and then they brought it over to the US. And that time it stated you could buy an ounce for $200, which would be equivalent to buying an ounce for $900 today. I was like, wow. So just like little interesting facts. And I mean, I haven't even really dove into it, but I mean, it talks about how there's a huge controversy over whether, cannabis is a 2 species, meaning sativa indica, or a one species with 2 subspecies. And it really was claiming it to be an all around sativa plant. with terpenes so high that that's what's giving off that in the indica effects. And we're basically saying like indica is more of the drug founding side of it because it is more of that psychoactive where you're going to feel it more, whereas sativa is more of that you don't really, it's more of that medicinal. So it's been an interesting read. I can't wait to just dive more into it, honestly.
Awesome. It sounds like a good book. I know Marty and I both are real big on that. So what, is there anything else you'd like people to know about the Oklahoma market?
I think that it's just there's a lot there's a lot in the Oklahoma market. I think rather than maybe wanting anybody to know, I just would like to say like there's a piece of pie for everybody. I wish that I could see more peace in this community. It's very cutthroat, and I was not expecting that being cannabis, honestly. But at the end of the day, I guess, it's a business just like everywhere else. But it would be nice to see just the community come together more. That's what I would like, honestly.
So actually, that's an interesting topic that you bring up is that why don't you tell people about, a lot of people don't realize Oklahoma has some of the most liberal usage laws of anywhere on the country. I know we have a hair salon, barber shop, nail salon, bars. There's a really cool music venue that we go to all the time that we'll be at this weekend. Bubba's Brew House down there in Durant. That'll be cool. What else? All different types of places that just where people would normally go and have services done if they have to be there a while. A lot of these places are opening up smoking versions, and you're not seeing that anywhere else. Certainly not in Oregon, California, or Washington. Certainly not with the openness at the very least. And then the fact that a lot of bars have, different cannabis nights and seeing brands and dispensaries, rep their brands at these different music events is, really cool to see, and just something that you don't see in these other states. So, and I've traveled quite a bit, and the only place I think I've seen anything like that was Vancouver.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, in North America at least.
Yeah, because I haven't now that you say that, really, I haven't seen any of that at all. And I know Oklahoma, whether it's here in Durant or up in the city, there's kind of always some type of event circulating where, whether it's, similar to the like Saturday night's event where, Bubba's Brew House, where it's an event for cannabis users and open to the public, or just cardholder events. But I have not heard of anywhere else doing events like that in any other states, just Oklahoma. And it's been a lot of fun. I do enjoy having a whole community to hang out with at night, like instead of that bar scene, which nothing's wrong with the bar scene. I ain't hating on my bar people, but as a cannabis user primarily only, it's been fun, to go to like these events and be just surrounded by other people who have the same interest, and you just find yourself talking amongst, all these other cannabis connoisseurs, who can teach you new things, or you teach them new things, or I think just as a legal aspect alone, it's been really cool. There's a whole community out there for, cannabis users, and I'm glad that the stigma is getting broken less and less every year.
I agree. Yeah, I can't wait till we can have cannabis bars, because I think it's ridiculous that I don't even want to call them a bar. I just want to be able to smoke weed wherever we want to hang out. Like
they have a couple in Oregon. There's a few in Oregon. The
not
public
nearly enough.
clubs. No, yeah. But they do have at least those lounges at least, but nothing like where they're like openly allowing pretty much any business that wants to do it and just declare that you have to, because they have, it's just a different kind of market here, and you know, it's almost like the stoners have taken over in a way. It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Or logic has taken over. Like, I think it's pretty easy, actually. I think that, like, you could literally say, if you can smoke cigarettes or drink alcohol there, I should be able to smoke weed there.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
That
I
sounds
did
pretty
go
simple.
to I think it was 2011, so I mean it was a while ago, but I went to California, and they were still medicinal there at that time, but there was a Kush bar. And mind you, it was like a very sneaky hallway and like these stairs and, you know, top secret. But there was a hallway and you went in, you could either go into the left or the right. And the left side was the dispensary, but you also could smoke and it overlooked Muscle Beach. And then on the other side was the Kush bar, and it was really when it was just like flour and hash. Those were like the two things that you could buy. And it was, you got to tell the bud tender what bong you chose. She got it down for you. She put the hash in it. She lit it for you. You bought it by the gram, and it was a bar setting. You hit the bong, and then you could, overlook Muscle Beach and hang out. And I don't think it was open for very long, but it was cool while it lasted.
Right. And I don't understand, like, again, if you can smoke a cigarette or have a drink there, you should be able to smoke cannabis there, especially medical patients, for fuck's sake.
I agree.
Like, you want to like make them drive home just so they can take their medicine? That's stupid,
Exactly.
in my opinion.
Yeah.
So, and it's like, you do see some flexibility, like, there's not that many companies left in Oregon that will drug test for cannabis. And even if they do, you have every right to ask them to not.
Yeah.
You can say like, hey, this is legal.
This is my medicine.
And some of them, I had one company that was like, you know what? Okay, we'll make an exception. Or they actually said they would change, because they wanted me to do IT work for them. And so, it was basically like, well, if you drug test me, I'm going to be like going for the high score. There's just there's no point in testing me if that's going to be the case. And so they didn't say anything for like a week, and then they came back later and were like, well, we've updated it. We've decided to just drop cannabis off of our drug use policy. And so
nice.
I worked for them for a while. And so it's definitely, you can see the culture changing to a more logical arrangement, in my opinion. Like, it just makes more sense. Like, obviously nobody is testing to see if you smoke or if you drink alcohol the night before, or
right,
let people have cigarettes on their break, or drink coffee, or all like it's just none of your business. Let me do my job, and if I do my job, then it's not a problem. And it never was, never has
and
been.
And that's how I feel too. If you go to work and you do what you're supposed to do, then it doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter what you do outside of work.
Right. I can see maybe like operating heavy equipment, or,
with the exception, of course.
Yeah, obviously that, but, if you're a receptionist, or you're, even just a business person, definitely if you're working in a dispensary, right? I mean, for a while you couldn't consume any medicine at a dispensary or a cannabis grow in Oregon, which was ridiculous. It didn't last very long, obviously.
I know dispensaries. There's a dispensary out here I know that has a no drug policy, and they don't let their employees smoke. And it's like, well, how do you expect to sell anything?
I know a dispensary out here as well. I don't know if it might be the same one, but yeah, I know then they're not allowed to be medicated at work and things like that. And exactly, how am I supposed to sell product if I can't consume the product? But even going back to just you saying like the Oregon was kind of opening up drug testing, and then flipping it back to the Oklahoma question, there are still a lot of businesses that won't allow you to have your medical card if you work out here. And so I think, hopefully within the next couple of years, those changes can be made to where no one is to go without if they are wanting to get that medical card. But there's a couple places, if you even tell them like that you applied for your card, they'll tell you, well, you can come back and apply here in 2 years when your card expires, which I think is a little ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, that sounds really ridiculous to me.
Yeah.
I just think that once it becomes legal, there's can't really say too much about it in my opinion. So,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously that only accounts for so much, but morally, I don't think that if you're fine with someone going home and getting plastered on scotch, then and coming to work the next day, and as long as they show up and do their work and you're fine with it, then really the same thing should apply to cannabis. So
Exactly.
um
Okay.
yeah. So, I would love to see, it go, and I'm sure it will. I think Oklahoma might have a little farther to go before the corporate and business world start to embrace it. Over
Mm-hmm.
here, we're on the West Coast. It's already, it's kind of had a culture just because of its existence for so long. Whereas,
Right.
like Steve was saying, the stoners are sort of taking over there, which is great. The more I think people get exposed to cannabis culture, the less it scares anyone. So,
Mm-hmm.
the fact that it exists in Oklahoma, and people will start getting used to it, and grandmas will start using it for their arthritis, and like all these different benefits will come in, and it won't just be the devil's lettuce anymore, and they won't have any of those experiences that everyone has been telling them they're going to have with all these crazy drug users.
Yeah.
When those things don't happen and all these other cool things do happen, eventually that's what changes the tide, in my opinion. Old ladies getting out and and just using it to help themselves feel better or feel good is always, it's great PR stuff. We've talked about it before. It's a great way to get access um, to really just reach out in a community that you're trying to tap into. Um, so having those lotions and topicals and different things for a dispensary can be a great draw, because then once they're there, you can talk to them about other products and different stuff, and then you know they talk about it at the dinner table. They're the ones
Mm-hmm.
that aren't afraid to be like, guess what I did today, you know what I mean? So I think they're a great tool to use in just making inroads in communities that have been so indoctrinated against cannabis for so long.
I agree. And I've even kind of seen that just for the sense of them not wanting to smell like it. So
Mm-hmm.
they want the tincture or the topical or the bath bomb or
Right.
any other way to get it where there's no smell. They're
Right.
not letting off, that smoke. So yeah, I agree with you there
And they're
for
like, oh,
sure.
this just smells like lavender. And you're like, yeah, it does. It's lavender. That's what it is.
Exactly.
With other cannabinoids in it,
Yeah.
obviously. But you're like, yep, that's because it's lavender. And
Yep.
they just have those really honest connecting moments. And I feel like a lot of times they're
Hmm.
not, not afraid or intimidated by
Yeah.
having those reactions. So it's always fun. I know whenever Steve and I do the in-person class, we like to take the students down to the dispensary who've never, because a lot of times they come in from out of town. And so there's always people that have never been to a dispensary. And so it's really fun to take them down there and have them look at all the different stuff, like the things you don't even know exist
Yeah.
before you go into a dispensary, and it's pretty cool. And then to have like a whole group of people come through, because then the dispensary people, they get kind of into it. There's so
Yeah.
many people, literally they're like, oh, look at this, and oh, look at that.
Yeah.
It's kind of like taking a kid to the candy store for the first
Well,
time.
I still think Elaine Ingham takes the cake for best new trip to the dispensary
I
together.
missed that one. I missed it. That would have been fun. That must
No,
have
and
been in
the best was when the bud tender asked her if she grew.
Cal. That's hilarious.
The kid, you have no idea.
Do you even know?
Anyways, it was just one of those really funny moments. Anyways, so there's something else I was gonna ask, and I totally lost my train of thought. I'll think of it.
I like your shirt. Implants matter.
Yeah, hemp lives matter, and it's made of hemp. It's super soft.
Nice.
Super soft hemp.
I like it.
Yes. So hopefully now that we got rid of the tangerine tyrant, we can get some legalization passed, and I don't know what it's going to look like. With Kamala and them, I really have my doubts that we're going to get a a decent federal legalization bill, but we'll see what happens. I did see that in
I try to change their tune, but I don't know.
we didn't talk about it. The new hemp rules looks like they're going to bump it to half a percentage and then 1% for negligence. So, you know, that's not too bad.
It's
I haven't gone
in
through
the
the
right
whole-
direction at least. I mean, I still think they, you know, shouldn't be any. Should just
Oh,
it
yeah.
should all be,
Yeah.
you know, like a tomato, basically.
No, I just allow it to be whatever, and then classify it as, you know, if it's below this, then it's classified as A grade hemp if it's below 0.3, and then it's B grade if it's up to 0.5, and C grade if it's up. You know what I mean? Like, just come up with a grading system for remediation, and away you go. You know what I mean? This isn't difficult. We do this with tons of other crops for essential oil extraction and things. You know, this isn't any different. We got to stop treating it like it's some kind of crazy toxic chemical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No doubt.
'Cause
Like
it's
some of the
not-
destruction rules are just absolutely ridiculous. That's one of the newest ones that they've been pulling. So
Ugh.
Got to secure your compost piles.
oh yes,
Make sure they're not digging out dirty weed.
three
Right.
attack
Yeah.
3 attack dogs per pallet sized stack of compost.
Ridiculous. Live stream feed to the state.
Live stream feed, laser sensors.
Don't let them get the compost. Literally shitty weed, man.
Yeah. We had wild harvested. That's how you wild harvest your root aphids here in the South, you know. Seriously,
That's what I
though,
told you. I was like,
there is someone suggesting today that you take soil from a shallow mudded area and put it in your system. That's a really good way to get lily aphids, especially if you're in the South. They have these things called lily aphids. They are related to rice root aphids, and they'll lay eggs in that mud. And it's a great way to introduce them to your grow. And they are rough to get rid of. You have to end up doing alternating like Monday, Wednesday, Friday with insect sprays, Bavaria bassiana, Isofuma fumistoria, and what's the third one that we put in the rotation? There's 3 of them. I forget. Anyways, it's in the class. But we do a rotation of those, and then we do a weekly release of rove beetles to wipe them out. But you have to do that for, you know, a good 2 or 3 months before you can guarantee you're rid of them. But, you know, you have to be careful. Like when we do our collections, be it IMO in a box, you know, you can see that it's clean and you can see that it's right. When we do it with aquatics, we never put it directly onto the bottom because we don't want to pull up any of those anaerobic fungi, and there's some nastier critters. You don't want to pull in things like caddisfly larvae or dragonfly larvae. As much as I love dragonflies, I'd rather they stay in the pond. And some of the other things that could end up being a problem for your system. You could also pull in snail eggs, which could then, you know, potentially infect your stuff with schistomiasis and a whole bunch of other things. So it's just, that's why you want to do your collections from the water column from moving bodies of water. That's where you're going to get your seed microbes that are blowing off of other stuff, or get them from the live plant tissue from live aquatic plants, because that's going to have your endophytes. Remember that aquatic plants actually can exchange they have significantly more endophytes in their living tissue of their leaves than terrestrial plants do, because they can actually do mineral exchange through their leaf tissue significantly more than terrestrial plants. You know, they're all too happy to absorb minerals through their leaf tissue. So, you know, they have tons of endophytes that, you know, while won't directly benefit your plants always, some of them will. And you can take those, and the main benefit to them is taking them and utilizing them, especially if you're going to make a plant food. You know, you can utilize them the same way you would kelp, especially if you're doing ferments. They're wonderful. But you can do IMO collections and take the microbes that live on the surfaces of the leaves, the ectophytes, and some of those actually I have found under the microscope will survive for quite an extensive time in the terrestrial environment just fine, as long as it's kept, you know, at a decent moisture rate. So you'll get, you know, much more beneficial microbes. And especially when we're looking at mineralization, we use those microbes versus some of the other ones. We get, you know, better mineralization for our fish waste when we're brewing our fish waste with our compost teas. In terms of parts per million of various minerals, potassium, phosphorus, and other things. You know, if you're going to capture your local mineralizing microbes, that's how you do it. We especially love to do this when we're talking about cold water systems. When we have people that are in the mountains, people wanting to run in the 50s and 60s, people that are trying to save money on power, especially people at high altitude and doing trout. Anyone that's looking to do trout or salmon, if you're in Colorado, I highly recommend getting into you know, then that might be a good time to actually take and get some, again, from a fast moving stream, a gravel sample or something like that, in order to introduce, but I would put it again in like a strained sock that I can pull out, and then put that maybe like a tea bag underneath where my media beds would be, or where my mineralization tank would be, that can colonize that out. And you'll get those mainly for those cold water nitrifying bacteria that you simply aren't going to buy in a bottle at the store. You know, stability and tetra and all these other beneficial microbes don't have, you know, they're not really made for cold water. They don't replicate very fast, and you actually can see how nitrates will start to crash, or I'm not nitrate starts to spike because you're not getting that conversion to nitrate. So with the colder water, so you can actually utilize colder water collections. But if you actually do want to collect this, and we're going to do a whole episode on here soon on this, and I think you guys are going to like it. Aquatic IPM is doing either a rice collection in a sack, and then again keeping it just off the bottom, and then just only cooking it long enough to sterilize it, and then putting it in a filter sock like you would like a paint strainer or pantyhose or something like that, in order to keep the main critters off of it. You will get crayfish and stuff that'll try to cut their way in there, so try to use something a little bit thicker, or put like an extra onion bag around it or something like that. It seems to work much better. And then you can take that out and then actually make an IMO2 out of it, you know, much more traditionally after a 2 to 4 day inoculation in the river. So you're going to take your rice, cook it until it's sterilized, you know, just long enough till it's at a boil, cut it, strain it, put it in your bag, put it out, and then again, keeping it just off the bottom. Has to be a moving body of water. Do not do a stagnant body of water. Again, you're going to get yourself into trouble if you start dealing with stagnant bodies of water. You can get all kinds of nasty stuff. It has to be moving. And again, you know, tie it off to a tree, tie it to a stick, you know, something to anchor it, you know, just so it stays where it's going to be. And then the other way that we found, and we actually used to sell these at the aquaponic source, is to take sea sponges. You can get the you know, the ones used for painting, or what we found was the best ones for inoculating, especially when I used to do fish tanks. You can buy whole packs that are natural sea sponge tampons that the hippies buy, and you can buy them in like huge 50, 100 packs, and it's like ultra cheap. All right, so it's like one of the cheapest ways to get proper inoculation size sponges in mass, and collecting them that way. And then what we would do is we would take some a little bit of sugar, you know, usually a cup per gallon or so, or and then throw that in there, and then boil those again, just to mainly get the sodium out of them and kill anything that might be on them, and just sterilize them. And then again, putting a couple of those into a bag, and then throwing them either into a sump of an established aquaponic system, or again, when we were doing more studies, you know, into again moving bodies of water, or floating them like a bobber, you know, in from a jug or something like that, and collecting those mineralizing microbes from that. The third way that we looked at, or the fourth way, because we already talked about the rice, the sponge, and the plant leaf material, is through the root collection. So this is more like your traditional kind of thing, where you're taking, you know, some root mass and a little bit of soil from right where the roots were, from rushes and cattails, things like that. Just a small little snippet of it, and taking that and utilizing that to brew up the same way you would kind of compost. So you're just collecting it and utilizing it as you would a compost sample for your compost teas. Again, this tends to provide the most amount of aquatic fungi when we did the research. But along with the rice, those two really had the most amount of aquatic fungi, spores, and other, type structures growing in them, whereas the rest were pretty. With the sponges, they had a lot of bacteria and then a ton of arthropods because they have lots of little places in them to hide and things like that. So it's great if you're trying to seed larger, microorganisms in your aquaponic system or hydroponic system, but again, not as relevant if you're doing compost teas. So I would definitely stick to the rice and the plant mass and the root mass brewing as the main collection methods over anything else. But again, when you're doing those root collections, you do still have that same problem where you can accidentally introduce some things because some of these root mat balls in these plants are pretty anaerobic, and this is where you can get yourself into trouble. So making sure that you do have your stuff. The dog is getting the attention of the camera instead. It's pretty funny.
You stole your show, man.
The dog is stealing the show.
That's cute.
So, but yeah, so you can, those are really the best ways I've found to collect microbes. And as far as aquatics goes, you can really get yourself into trouble pretty quickly if you're taking it, especially from dried pools. And there's quite a few predators and quite a few. You can also get cyanobacteria and a whole bunch of other things when you're taking them from those last of the dried pools, because those are one of the last things to sporulate if you're taking it from, say, a pond that is dried up. If it has a green or red film across the top, definitely don't touch it, because that can really jack up your phosphorus and some of your other stuff that can be very negative to your mineralization process and even toxic to the plants directly and cause a whole host of other negative problems that you do not want to run into. So yeah, I guess that's what I have to say on that. All right, well, is there anything else you wanted to tell people? How do people find you and your podcast? And then when can they look forward to the next episode?
So every Thursday I have episodes at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time, and they can be found on Spotify, Apple Podcast, I guess, Pocket Cast, Google. I think it's called Google Cast. There's basically every podcast platform it's available, but Spotify and Apple are my top, the top ones. Pocket Cast, Google Cast, Radio SP or something, I believe is like that. And then Coughing with CannaQueen is the name of it. You can just put that in the search bar. And then I have my Instagram is Coughing with CannaQueen, and then the Facebook is Coughing with CannaQueen as well. And cannabis, if we're gonna throw those out there too.
Oh yeah, we're big fans of cannabis. We both know the owners. So.
Oh, very cool, very cool. Yeah, I've enjoyed that platform because everywhere else has almost unpublished all of my stuff, so I need to really just kind of probably jump on making a website so I don't have to worry about all my content getting taken down. But it is available on the podcast platform, so that's good.
Apparently I'm sitting too still. I don't know. That's awesome. Well, yeah, it is kind of we've often harped, I know I have often harped in particular, and stressed and lost sleepless nights over I think we've gone down to one more strike and we're doomed on the YouTube channel at least 2 separate times that I can think of recent in the last couple months alone. But yeah, so it's just trying to I ended up going back and having to remove almost all the links that we've ever had on the show for all of our guests, and we're just linking to their social media accounts because it seems like that's kind of not getting flagged. If I put their websites up, I immediately get flagged on the so it's we're having lots of issues with that.
Yeah, it's never ending. Hopefully one day, but definitely thankful for cannabis.
That's why we have cannabis, where we don't have to deal with all that bullshit.
Yeah, exactly.
So we have a question from, well, thanks so much for coming on and telling us about your podcast and everything and what you're doing and about Oklahoma. You're more than welcome to stick around if you want to kick tires for another 15 or 20 minutes. If not, thanks for coming on. We've definitely tied up quite a bit of your evening. So thanks.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I had so much fun. Y'all have a good night.
Thanks for coming. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thanks. We had a question from chat. Steve, are you familiar with flower and grain mites at all? What is your opinion on the best soil predators? As far as flower and grain mites, I have not had any issues with those. I have not used them to breed my own mites. I know lots of friends that do worm bins that have just psychotic amounts of H miles that I can steal off of all the time, but I have not worked with those. As far as opinions on best soil predator mites, it depends on what it is that I'm going after, but really it's almost always H miles or the new classification is Stradiolalaps scymatus, which is the new Latin name for it. Now, the other soil predator that I really like to go to, though, pretty heavily, and we just talked about them a little bit earlier when we were talking about the lily aphids, is the dilatids, dilatias, not dilatids, dilatias. Dolatia, sorry, I'm high. This guy just smoked a ton of hash. The Dolatias, what are they called? Rove beetles. Sorry, took me a minute to remember the common name. That would be the other one, is really a go-to. So if I think I have a root problem, or especially, well, not if I think, if I find one. In fact, I was just at a grow not that long ago at a grow where they, all their hydroponic number or aquaponic numbers were good. All the temperature was in range, like everything was perfect. There was just no reason why anything should be wrong, and they're getting this random yellowing. And I narrowed it down to either a systemic leaf fungus or some kind of root problem. And it turned out it was really, really early root aphid infestation, that it was just starting to yellow off the plants. We caught it really early, and we were able to keep, it was the same week they were thinking about flipping them. So we just kept them in veg for 2 more weeks and just hacked the shit out of them. And we're able to beat them back, and they're still doing the treatment going into flower, but they have the population down to such a low level now to where they're going to be able to beat them back that next 2 weeks going into flower. So and that was a couple of weeks ago. That was a month or 2 ago. I got my big giant knitted joint.
I thought it was one of your tampons.
Big knitted
That's
giant.
hilarious.
Anyways, you can do a combo like we talked about earlier with the root aphids of the biocontrols rotation every other day and just kind of overrunning them. The reason why I say rotate so many over every other day is because it seems like there's a couple different varieties, a couple different species that have very similar behavior, and they're very hard to tell apart without sending them out for analysis. And it also keeps them harder for them to evolve around as well. If you're hitting them with a couple different fungals all at the same time, they're kind of just done, right? It just wipes them out. And while some of the rove beetles do die from it, I would say 85-90% of them we're seeing are just fine. We're still seeing babies and reproduction going on just fine when we're doing those heavy releases in an emergency situation. So even with 3 times a week of sprays of biocontrols, so it works just fine. But that would be the it was kind of an interesting situation to deal with, where just everything else was perfect and you're still getting yellowing on the plants, and it's kind of like, well, what else could it be? One of those situations. So it's always good to run into those now and then. Keeps you on your toes.
Yeah, I would agree. H miles, or there's a new name for it now. I forget whatever the new name is.
Stradiolalaps scymatus.
Yeah, what he said. And then rove beetles, just like he was saying, probably the two best primarily soil predators, and that's really where your fight is going to be. So I would even add them if you have worm bins. I would add right to your worm bins. I would also add the your fungal treatments to your worm bins as well.
Oh yeah, and you can always add a little bit of labs, the cheese from your labs. If you don't have anywhere else to put it, throw it in your worm bins. They love that stuff. Holy smokes! Especially if I don't know if anyone else has ever put in or their kids put in too much meat, and you end up with the trichoderma, and you get the green mold all over. You can blast that with the labs just to get your compost bin back to something that resembles stable again for your worms. What's new with you and your grow? I know that you got all kinds of stuff going. You got a grow light challenge. You got all kinds of stuff going out there.
Oh yeah, so I have right now I have the Mars Hydro SP150 and the Bloom Plus BP 3000. Yeah. So they're basically pretty close to the same technology like we talked about. They're both sort of a modified quantum board. And they've both been performing really well. So you can check out those updates on my YouTube channel. But shout out to them. Also shout out to Casual Fields Ferments. They provided some samples that we used, and they've been doing a great job of sharing stuff on social media, and their comfrey ferments and sort of their dedication to education about that has been really cool. So if you haven't checked them out yet, check them out. They were on Attack to Grow, and then also on their Instagram, which I think is just at Casual Fields. You might have to check that out. Anyway, so shout out to them. Those are kind of everything I have going on now. So the room's in perpetual flower. I threw maybe I want to say 5 or 6 more plants in there after I harvested. So I pulled down, since the last time we were on, I pulled down a bunch. Let's see, this is all Snowman right here, which just came off the drying rack. And is just starting to get burped. Snowman is an interesting strain. It's super frosty, kind of nice, dense nugs. Didn't scrog really well, and you didn't get a lot of tops off of it. So I would say, and the smell is interesting. It's kind of like an earthy smell to it. So yeah, I think that it's interesting. The Thorsberry, like I've said before, if you just handed it to me and told me it was sour diesel, I would believe you. It smells like sour diesel. It tastes like sour diesel. Grows like sour diesel. So I don't see it being that much different. And that's definitely the genetics. It has sour diesel as one of the parents, so that's in there. And the Sunset Sherbet is definitely my personal favorite out of the 3 that I just harvested. And it's just super sweet. Doesn't almost to the point where it doesn't smell that much like weed. It's not it doesn't really have any of the skunky. It's very sweet, very pungent. I'd had the extract of it before. Definitely one of my favorite extracts that I ever had was some live resin off of Sunset Sherbet. So that was one of the reasons that I sought it out and grew it. I'd smoked some flower that my friend had grown with it, and as usual, the Aquaponics was just a little bit better. So here's a little nug of that. I don't know if you guys can see that very well. This is just a little nug waiting to get broke up here. But super frosty. Same thing with these 3 strains that I've seen with pretty much all the other ones, which is, it seems like increased trichome production, especially across all the shade leaves. Just a increase in trichome production, frostier, pungent, smells better, tastes better, smokes better. So really happy with how all of them come out. I did have the Thorsberry. I did find where it hermed out, and so I don't know why that was. If and see any type of light leak or anything like that. So the only thing I can think of is that last run, I didn't have any issues with it herming out, and I was running 11-13 instead of 12-12. So I think I'm going to switch back to that and just run it all the time. It was a little more complicated to do try to figure out how I would adjust it now that I'm in perpetual flower, I'm going to have plants in different stages all the time. So I can't run 12-12 at the start of flower and then step back to 11-13 towards the end, which is what I normally did when I was running a full, just trying to run a full run at a time. So it just kind of complicates that. So I think I'm going to switch back to just 11-13 all the time and just flower everything on that and see how that goes. It did seem to not affect yield that much. So even running an extra hour of light per day in the flower room all the way up until the end didn't seem to increase yield or size of buds or anything like that, and may have just used more power. So we'll see. So yeah, that's kind of all the stuff that I have going on right now. So I'm reloading recording some seeds that I'm popping. I have the pineapple jack and the Kajoa Kush that I have seeds sprouted of. And then I've got some seeds that you left me when you were here for the class a while ago. I don't remember what they are, but I have those that I'm going to pop as well.
Those are blue hash.
Blue hash, that's right. So, so yeah, I think that it, as far as like garden stuff goes, I'm just sort of doing a little bit of everything all the time now. I'm popping seeds, cutting clones, transplanting. I think I've got, pretty much everything into full production, and we'll just be able to stay in perpetual flower. The grow off has been really, really cool. I want to add more LEDs to it and get those going. I know we want to, work with Spectrum King like we normally do. Still trying to work with Spider Farmer. There's another one that has reached out over YouTube. So it's fun to kind of interact with people over that, and I'll be continuing to run different strains under them and swap different stuff out, and just kind of let people see what they can do. I've really been impressed with both of them so far, but definitely it seems like the higher wattage on the BP 3000. So even though it's 300 watts, it's really putting out a lot of light. It seems brighter next to a 330 watt ceramic metal halide. So I'll probably get a par meter and just test it, but I've been impressed with it so far, and the growth rate is definitely at least the same. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun doing the LED stuff so far, and just want to add to it. And I'll probably always keep a mix of ceramic metal halide and LED, and just put them into a grid pattern even after I decide. At some point I'll decide on which LEDs I want to put in there, and I'll probably just run 6 LED and 6 ceramic metal halide and do a hybrid setup. But it depends. Oh, the greenhouse, that's another. I got the greenhouse project, so we're putting the post in the ground right now for the greenhouse. It'll be 10 feet wide by 40 feet long by 12 feet tall, I think. So we got the blackout tarp and kind of everything ready to go for that. And finally stopped raining long enough to set some cement. So that's going to be really exciting to have that set up. And then I'll have another system to build. Got to put that together out there. So I've been crunching a few different things to kind of see what kind of system I want to set up out there. That's always fun to do something slightly different than I've done before. So I have a couple of different greenhouse models that I've been working on, and I just got to pick the one I want to do now. Go from there.
You should put like a grow bed or a table like right at floor level, like on the second floor above your grow, even if you're not growing weed, and just do like peppers or something, just to show how you could do like a, the sumped out stairs kind of thing.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I do think I'll have, at least a bed or two of veggies. So so yeah, maybe I'll do that. I'll finish up the deciding on exactly how I want it to go. When I get all that done, I'll do a little mini sketch up and we can talk about it here on the podcast just to kind of have some fun with it. So the greenhouse project, hopefully it'll probably take me a couple of weeks at least. I don't have a ton of spare time to get the greenhouse built and get everything done. But I drilled right through a French drain, had to patch that, so that was fun. But I got to use my 3D printer to print a part for the patch, which was kind of cool, and that works really good. So that was kind of fun. Yeah, so between the greenhouse project and harvesting, and drying, and jarring up the stuff that's coming off the drying rack, and all the stuff I have to do for clones and moms, take care of my dad, make sure my kids do their schoolwork because they're still at school at home. They will be going back to school in February, I think it is, up to 4 days a week. If we decide to do that, we might decide to keep them home still. So we'll see. But lots of busy stuff happening. How about you? I know you got a lot of stuff going on too. I don't know what you want to cover, but
Yeah. Nothing. I'm trying to think. I have 2 big projects right now that we'll be doing once everything is a little farther along. We'll be showing you guys that are going to be, you guys are going to like it. I'll leave it at that. And then we have another project that I'll be doing some film of next month. It'll be nice to finally get the fuck out of here for a little while, at least a couple days. And we'll have some footage of that next week, or not next week, next month. Still working on dates on that, but that'll be fun to go and work on another farm. It's actually going to be in an eastern state this time, so well, you guys will have to wait and find out which one here soon. But a state that I think a lot of people will be a little bit surprised to see is getting into the weed game. They're just awaiting their final approvals there, so it'll be kind of cool to see. So definitely super stoked on that. And then we will be on, or I will be on the Fumidor and Flavors show on Tuesday night. So that'll be fun. I think it's at 7 Pacific on Tuesday. And then I will be we have the gentleman from the Autoflower show will be our guest next week. I'm sorry, I can't remember his name off the top of my head. I do apologize, but he has a really cool, mostly Instagram-based show. I ended up having a really good time with him on his show. He was a very good interviewer. We're going to have him on our show to talk about autoflowers and his podcast and his content creation. So that'll be fun. So that you got that to look forward to, and then we'll be putting up a lot more of the talks from the conference. I have them all uploaded and everything. Finally, I just got to get them queued up now. And then what else do I want to tell you guys right now? Just some cool stuff in the works for this year. Lots of interesting things for this year. Just tons of new farms going up this year. And especially once the travel restrictions lift, we're going to be doing some cool stuff this year in some really cool places. And that's all I have to say. So we'll be, and then definitely some cool stuff here, and even in the shorter term that, again, I'm going to keep under wraps a little bit until we're ready to go public and show everybody. But yeah, just cool stuff going on all around.
sounds good. Well, I got to take off, but you guys can find me at AP Meds on YouTube, at AP Meds on Instagram, the Aquaponic Cannabis Growers Facebook group, the online cannabis class, which you can find
APMJ,
below.
APMJclass.com.
Yeah, apmjclass.com. Definitely check that out. So, I'm about every 3 to 4 days, I'm putting up about 20 videos. So, and those are all, eventually we'll have over 600 slides. And that doesn't even count some of the we'll be pulling some of the content that we've already created for other platforms and putting it on to here. A lot of the additional info on the LEDs that I'm doing, anything that we test will definitely be going up there. So we'll have a separate section for that, and like tested products. So, we offer everything in there from, lists of equipment to, recommended products for growing or inoculation or any number of different things. So if you are interested in that, please go check that out on the Teachable platform, which we are excited to be on. Let's see. Anything else that I'm forgetting? Probably yes, but I'm going to go with that. That's my final answer.
Yes, definitely. You can check me out at Ponics on SoundCloud, iTunes, YouTube, where we have most of our video content, and a whole bunch of other places. We will be at Bubba's Brew House in Durant this weekend on Saturday night. Yeah, it'll be a good time. They're doing what's it called? That 70s. Oh, I'm sorry. It's called the 70s Smokeout or something like that. Anyway, it's going to be pretty cool. We'll be there, hanging out, and yeah, we'll see you guys there. Stay safe, stay healthy, smoke your mullen, and we'll catch you guys next week.